So we were actually very fortunate. That's how I met Eddie. That in that time frame that we were bringing more awareness, seeing how we can get involved, he reached out, and the last March was born, where we are now through music, art, and movement are bringing more awareness to Dilley, Brownsville, El Paso. It's really important that we don't forget that there's still two other places housing kids here in Texas.
And just for context for viewers, we're talking about Liam Conejo Ramos.
Yes. So his case was very significant because not only was what happened atrocious, but it finally brought awareness to the public about how detrimental some of the things that are happening in these centers are, which is something we hadn't seen before. We were very hyper-focused on the arrest and the violence, but everybody was forgetting about what was happening behind closed doors. So this particular case, and what's interesting is there's been many kids before Liam that were arrested or detained, however you want to see it. But I think that even kidnapped 100% without their parents as well. So, and then they're not located either. So that's also a different lane you can get into. But I think what was so significant about him is we've become a society that is very hyper focused on socials and stuff. So the image of that child was so gut wrenching. But here's the thing: if somebody went into these centers and took pictures, I think people would be so mortified of the reality of these places. And, this is something that we've tried bringing awareness to before, and it just wasn't sticking as good as it did now, because I think now we're realizing not just the Liam case, but now we have the Epstein files, and now we're having all of these things building all of this pressure around kids. And you've got two options: either you stay silent and complacent, or you do something and you have to do something about it. So you do something about it. And to be honest with you, a lot of our protests and stuff do a lot of call to action. So we're really big on bringing speakers or organizations that do have platforms. So IYT doesn't have something where, for example, we go and feed out the homeless once a week, right? But Food Not Lost us. So we try to give you platforms of organizations that we've already vetted, that we love and work with, that need that help if you want to do those things, right? And then if you want to be part of IYT, come with us. There's a lot of things that you can do. We have a big initiative right now to get into the centers. So we're going to start sending letters to the centers. We have a vigil coming up Sunday. A big part of it is drawings. That's going to be sent to each step homes, and they're going to start delivering a lot of these alongside some of the funds that we're going to submit to the commissary through the event that we're doing. So I think for each organization is very different. I think there's a lot of organizations that have a great platform set up to get involved, and then they do a lot of other community action events as well. And then a lot of it is on the person. If you come to a movement, my job is for you to leave there ready for action. So I feel like we try to do that as much as we can with IYT by not just protesting, but giving you those resources for action, as much as we can.
Yeah, something I want to touch on a bit more is just the conditions in these facilities. I don't think people realize just how fucking depraved it is.
Dire it is.
And, I recently had a friend who had her dad self-deport, which is like in itself a bullshit kind of language, because no one self-deports, they're pushed to these conditions to be forced to sign these papers and never be allowed to come back, or have the process be even harder. But it's one of those things when I was hearing her talk about it where I'm like, fuck, even I wasn't that aware of this. And it's, not just the facilities that house the adults, it's the children. And now how many more warehouses are being purchased and transformed?
About 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Just in Texas.
One of which is where I was born and grew up in, Baytown. And right now I'm in the process of putting people together to try to figure out, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
Who is it? Who's selling it?
Yeah.
How do we stop it if we can?
or at least bring attention to it.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Baytown is like, Baytown is like blue collar central for so many Latinos, so many immigrants,
Yeah.
and
So many people from Baytown go to Houston to work.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them keep the city running.
yeah,
Essentially, honestly.
Yeah.
and now with the recent ordinance from the city of
Está rico. Está rico, yeah.
yeah, of like the bare minimum of like, hey, maybe don't call ICE at a traffic stop. Now fucking Greg Abbott is threatening to pull away public funds that keep those same cops running.
Mind you, now it's Austin, Dallas, and Houston who have funding pulled all at the same time
And Whitmire,
because of this.
Whitmire snapped too. Whitmire, he cowered.
Yeah,
Like I expected him to.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was like sketchy about it.
I would
I was sketchy about it.
Yeah, I was very taken aback by the ordinance to begin with. But when I read it, I knew that we had already stripped so much from it that would make it legal. So it is a legal binding ordinance. We don't go against state law at all, because at the end of the day, stopping you at a traffic stop and keeping you longer without a criminalized intent is against your Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
So it's unconstitutional, and we are literally the only city nationwide doing this.
yeah,
So I think it's absolutely bizarre that we are even doing this. You know, we are defunding the same system that we need to collaborate with ICE to do these detentions, but that's okay. Like, I feel like as a mayor, I would have been like, well, fuck you. You want to take money away from my police officers, but you want to ask them to do these things. That makes no sense. And you know, not that we have a closing working relationship with HPD, but a lot of these officers are not on the same boat that you would think, where they want to stop people and do these, because these are their community members, you know. We have the luxury of sometimes talking to sergeants at, you know, the protests and stuff, and a lot of the conversations I personally have with a lot of them is like, they're on our side and they do this for a job. And then, you know, my reply to them is like, you know, guys, at some point you're going to have to decide where your morals lie financially, right? What are you worth? You can't buy me for a revolution, but you need to figure out at what point you're going to say, this is past my morals and values. Yes, I'm doing this for a job, but I can't do this because this is going against our morals and values, right? So, and I feel like that's a big war that we're up against too, especially with these conditions and stuff, you know. I think for the first time, and I'll speak because I'm very spiritual, we are quite literally seeing a battle between evil and light. I think that what is happening, not just in the centers, which the conditions are awful. There is no clean water. There is no bedding. The kids are sleeping on the floors. They are literally in 10 by 10s. They have to work to be able to pay to buy clean water, which is priced at $4, but only earn about 10 to 20 cents for labor. So it's quite physically impossible. You have to work at least 2 days just to be able to purchase water to feed your newborn formula, because the water conditions are so bad that it gives the children diarrhea and other illnesses. The ACLU passed a really chilling report a few months ago that I spoke about at a protest, where we now have recorded incidents through the courthouse. Like, they are literally suing the ICE detention center in Arizona because children as young as 14 years old are getting their testicles burst as a form of torture. So we're literally castrating boys, right? And then you add a layer of the trauma that these kids are experiencing on a daily basis. And then, you know, mental health goes so far. I mean, I feel like that's the silent killer of humans, right? And that's a big focus on IYT shelter is, yes, we want to give them a safe home, but a big part of our shelter is honestly going to be rehabbing these kids, because a lot of these kids, and that's another part, we don't know the extreme of the situations because we hear about it after, right? There's a child that was just raped for a 3-month period that is under the age of 5. So we're going to keep hearing over and over and over and over again of all of these traumatic situations. So I think that the only, and I'm going to be so direct, honest, and transparent. There's no way to stop the monster. The only way to do is make an action plan for either after or during. We need extreme civil disobedience for something to change. We are very conformed with life. That's not going to happen anytime soon. These warehouse fires are giving me slight hope. Shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it.
What was that one that like the gates opened and then like everyone was like, oh, hold on, let's not go inside.
I don't know.
There's literally like 13 different warehouses nationwide on fire, and it became a trend, right? The first guy lit one, and then everybody else was like, no, I mean, everybody's kind of jumping on that trend now, and it's effective. I mean, we're gonna have a small toilet paper shortage for like a week or two, but holy crap, I mean, that on its own became a movement. And we're seeing more and more, we've seen Amazon warehouses now, we saw Tesla's warehouse get burned. And I think society's getting tired, but we need more acts like that to really form a revolution. But here's where the double-edged sword is, right? You can't have a revolution without a little bit of good trouble, but we have to define what that good trouble is, right? When that good trouble affects civilians' lives or puts a lot of lives in danger, that's when we kind of have to take a step back and think of a logical way to do civil disobedience where it doesn't also harm the community. But there will be a point in time where violence will only be the answer. And I truly hope that we can.
It doesn't get to that.
It doesn't get to that. Yeah. But with the extremities of things happening, that could be your life in a year or two. A human's endurance is only so much. So there's going to get a point where people are going to be walking around with guns.
Yeah.